Hey, pretty babies, what is going on? Lee Sanders here. You're checking out a new RCWR show for August 30th, 2021. Couple of minutes removed from an all-new WWE Raw. Can we be honest? A little bit of a lackluster episode this week, although there was a couple of bright spots. I think really, when you think about it, the bright spots came in the form of the championships that were on the line tonight. We'll definitely talk about that in a hot minute. Not to mention, there was a damn good women's match as well. So, especially if you're falling off the heels of the NWA Empower pay-per-view and you still got that buzz going on, I think you might have been quite pleased with the one match that I'm talking about. I think you guys know exactly the match that I'm talking about. Again, we'll dive into that later on. Hope your weekend was fantastic. What a crazy month of August it has been for wrestling fans. The past 2 weeks that we got alone in this month of August, everything culminating in NWA Empower, NWA 73rd anniversary. And now here we are just rolling into this next week as we're pretty much closing out August and on to September. Do you remember the very first time in September? Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite time of the year, by the way, because I in previous years, I was doing pretty good, but my streak ended a couple of times there. But I made a vow to myself this year, every single day of September, I'm going to do a Earth, Wind, and Fire September reference. Now, for those of you that maybe want to do the same, be careful, because depending on where you're posting Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff, they will come after you. They will come after you. I remember last year, I want to say it was maybe around November, possibly going into December. Every single joint that I ever did on Earth, Wind, and Fire from the previous years on Twitter, it got flagged. Not by the band themselves, obviously, but whoever their music publisher is and all that, they pretty much were the ones that had submitted a copyright claim, and as a result, the joint had to be pulled. So be careful. You guys like playing that little game there of the Earth, Wind, and Fire. Be careful where you're posting and make sure that you know all the rules, because last thing you want to do is get your account in trouble and all that. I mean, in some cases, you know, you don't get a slap on the wrist. You don't get a strike or anything. It's just kind of one of those, hey, we're pulling that because you ain't got no business. Like, you didn't clear it. And, you know, it's kind of understandable. But it's going to be interesting to see how I work around this year. So keep your fingers crossed for me. We'll see how it pans out. Hey, before we go any further into the show, definitely want to take this time out. I was checking out the numbers over the weekend. Definitely was paying attention to the show on demand and on the download stats. And I see that for the month of August, plays and downloads, pretty good. Pretty good, I got to say. Comparing it to, honestly, this was probably, if not our second, our third most popular month in 2021. As far as plays and downloads go. So, a big chunk of that credit to you guys that constantly represent and check out the show, be it you check it out live or you check it out on demand and on the downloads. You know, we had also celebrated a milestone, right? What was it? I think it was in the middle of last week or maybe kicking off the week. We had celebrated a milestone where we had got over 100,000 downloads for the podcast. So pretty awesome to hear that. So again, my appreciation to you guys, because sincerely, I said it on social media, but I don't think I actually had said it here on the shows. I do appreciate you guys that go out of your way. You check out the content that I put out on a weekly basis, however you represent, live or on demand, on the downloads. Definitely appreciate you guys that represent. Means a ton. And to just basically welcome me into your ears, you know, your minds and all that on a weekly basis. I love it. I appreciate that. So it's an awesome, humbling experience. So I do appreciate you all. So yeah, seeing that, seeing the downloads for the month of August, we're off to a damn good. I gotta say, as far as 2021 goes. So be prepared. We're gonna try to see what we can do tonight. But going forward, since we're going into September, we kind of got a little bit of a Debbie Downer for you guys. Some bad news we got to share with you guys, and it is show related, right? So with schools now opening back up, and people are now being told, hey, take your kids to school, right? I mean, you still got a little bit of remote learning, a little bit of distance learning that's happening here and there, but for the most part, all the kids are now going back to school. So, as a result of that, I mean, hell, not to mention, I took a little bit of a breather from my classes. So, I had scheduled myself for some classes beginning in October, and conveniently, those classes are going to be going down right after, like literally right after I get off of the Jericho cruise. Then I got to just, boom, go right into my classes. I actually wanted to begin taking my classes. Excuse me, it's a little bit of the beer talking there. I actually had wanted to take my classes because some of them actually began earlier this month. But wifey was saying, look, the last thing we need is you being on the Jericho cruise. You're trying to entertain that. You're trying to get into the whole rest and relaxation. But then also at the same time, you got to do your classwork. Like, that's just not. And we kind of got a little bit of a preview of that when we were doing our wedding / honeymoon weekend, because Lord knows I was juggling classes and everything going into the wedding and then during the honeymoon. And to quote my wife, yeah, you were there, but you seemed distant because you were preoccupied with other stuff. So, I kind of wish I would have been able to take some of my classes, already. But considering we got the Jericho cruise that's coming up, I'm getting a late start. I'm actually going to be starting in October. So I'm pretty ecstatic. But to the point, we're going to try to do our best to have these shows be much shorter. Now, for you newer listeners, you probably are like, well, that's kind of new to me. What's the norm? Normally we do 2+ hours. So the new goal is to see if we can make our points in 1:15 to 90 minutes tops. And whatever we aren't able to get into, I mean, God, we do multiple shows a week. So we can easily just, whatever we don't get into, just let it be a layover. Just let it lay over, bleed into the next show, and we can pretty much do it like that. So we'll see how we do tonight and everything. Raw, again, okay episode this week. I really don't want to open up talking about Raw, but if I were to just kind of give the generalized, just overhead review of Raw tonight, I would say that, honestly, you had about 3 matches out of what? At least 8? Let me actually look at my notes, because I actually took notes while I was looking at Raw tonight. We had about, technically we had 9 matches, but when you really, no, 9, maybe almost 10 matches that you had. I say maybe because one of those actually didn't count. It involved Doudrop and Eva Marie. Again, we'll talk about that in a hot minute. But, for the most part, when you look at the card up and down for tonight, there was really only about 3, possibly 4 matches that you could say, okay, you know what, it's actually pretty good. And the rest of it just kind of felt like an afterthought when it was all said and done. So, yeah, I don't know how you guys personally feel about that, but that's just me. That's just me personally. I guess we'll go ahead and we'll get Raw out the way, because I was stumbling a little bit there a few seconds ago, because I was just trying to figure out how exactly I want to go about this show tonight. I think we should just go ahead and get Raw out the way, and then we can dive into some more fun, interesting little topics that we can get into for this time that we're here together tonight and everything. And for those of you that's tuning in live right now, and you want to interact with me and everybody else in the chat, we have subscriber only mode that is activated. So basically only channel members are able to send messages. So if you want to participate, you want to be able to interact, all you got to do is just hit the subscribe button. It's free. Doesn't cost you a thing. Just hit the subscribe button. And then once you're able to do that, you're able to interact with us. You can see your name displayed on the screen. You get a shout out too. Of course, the super chats are open as always. But yeah, Raw tonight, I liked how it pretty much had opened up there. And I got to tell you, I was a little bit concerned because I cringed a little bit at the opening of Raw where we saw Damian Priest come out there. Damian Priest still trying to get his proper footing as far as speaking in front of massive crowds here, because he did struggle a bit in his opening promo, but he was able to shake off whatever nerves was going on, whatever he was supposed to memorize. He was able to shake it off pretty quick and really seize the moment there. And I love how he pretty much opened up talking about the type of United States champion he was going to be, which pretty much a fighting champion and all that. Pretty much Drew McIntyre comes out. So already you're kind of seeing the running gag that's going on here. You're suspecting, okay, either Sheamus is going to come out here. Now that we've seen Sheamus, he's going to want a match because Damian Priest, to the point of being a fighting champion, issued an open challenge. Anybody on the roster. So seeing Sheamus come out, you're going, okay, so either Damian Priest is going to accept this open challenge, and or we're going to be seeing just a big old sleigh of other folks that want to challenge Damian Priest for the title as well. And eventually we're going to need Adam Pearce, Sonya Deville to kind of clean up this mess. So you're already kind of anticipating what's going on here. All right, we're going to kill 15 minutes just with a bunch of guys coming out one by one talking. Okay, whatever. See Sheamus come out, right? All right. So far you're calling it right as you saw it. But then you get Bobby Lashley, MVP. They come out. RK Bro comes out there as well. And so you've got all of this machismo. You got all of these men. It's a lot of beef that you got going on there. It's a whole lot of beef that needs to be squashed as well. So Sonya Deville, Adam Pearce, they come out and they have a simple solution, which is basically the titles are on the line, with the exception of Bobby Lashley's WWE championship. His championship was not on the line tonight, although that would have been actually pretty badass. But no, instead the matches that we got, the WWE Raw tag titles were on the line as RK Bro defended the titles against Lashley, MVP. Meanwhile, as all of that was going on, we also had Damian Priest defending his United States Championship against Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. Okay, here's your triple threat match right there. So, you know, you're looking at that and you're going, oh wow, okay, so this is pretty cool. So you started off thinking you were gonna get to see 3 championships on the line here possibly, but technically you actually did get 3 championships on the line, because besides the Raw Tag Team titles and the United States Championship, the 24/7 Championship was actually on the line as well. Don't even get me started on that. The flipper segment, as I like to call it. Flipper as in Flipper the Dolphin. Flipper as in it's time to be a flipper and change your channel. Yeah, kind of one of those type of deals. But those were pretty much, you know, minus the 24/7 championship. Those other matches there, you're going, okay, you know what, I can actually get into this. If these are the matches we got, okay, all right, can get into that. And the way that they actually had built those matches up were pretty good, honestly. Particularly, I got to take my hat off to the Damian Priest, Sheamus, McIntyre for the United States Championship. That was killer fucking good. Very competitive. I love the fact that Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, I love the fact that they're at this stage in their career right now where they're respectfully saying to themselves, okay, look, in order for us to create new stars, and in order for us to, you know, try to pay it forward, you know, and try to help the up and coming talents that's coming up from behind us and everything, you know, and can maybe one day take their rightful place right up here with us or surpass us, you know, we got to pay it forward. And we got to do our parts to help elevate the up and coming talents. And I love the fact that Sheamus, what he's been doing with Damian Priest these past couple of weeks, awesome. But tonight, it just went on a whole other level, seeing him and McIntyre do their very best and putting over Damian Priest right down to the point of seeing, you would have expected, and it's okay if you would have thought this way, but if you're looking at this match, you're either saying, okay, there's going to be some type of fuckery involved, and that's how Damian Priest is going to retain the championship, or you're saying to yourself, there's no way they're going to have Drew McIntyre eat the pin. Surely it's going to be Sheamus that's going to eat the pin. And on the contrary, it was actually Drew McIntyre that ate the pin cleanly in the middle of the ring to Damian Priest as Priest retained his United States Championship. That is just, you to see that, you just can't help but take a step back and just go, man, mad props to Drew McIntyre. And I think that's one of the things that's really been lost about Drew McIntyre. Really, when you look at the start of the pandemic period when he was the champion, and, there was a decent amount of people that felt a certain way about Drew McIntyre and his championship reign. But as I always said, look, and even I admitted, yeah, it wasn't entertaining. No, but when it counted the most, it was the fourth quarter. It's clutch time. And you really need to give the ball to somebody to help carry everybody to that finish line. Drew McIntyre was that guy. And I even said to you guys, make no mistake about it, there's definitely going to be some future championship runs in this guy's future. This isn't the last time we're going to be seeing him as a world heavyweight champion. He comes off very likable, very smart guy. People that have worked with him have had nothing but glowing things to say about the man. Definitely appreciate his passion for the business. And he's always in that mindset where he's trying to do whatever is best for business and help out where he can. So to really be able to see that on display tonight, and where McIntyre's putting over Damian Priest, just badass. Just freaking badass. So to see, obviously McIntyre and Sheamus, they aren't the bookers, right? But just to, when you've established yourself for a significant period of time, and to be able to go into that match that they had tonight and under those conditions, all in the name of putting that young man over, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. I love that. And just to see the classy move there between Drew McIntyre and Priest afterwards, where they're shaking hands, essentially Priest earning the respect of McIntyre, just great icing on the cake right there. That's the type of stuff that you need. And look, not for nothing, but the fans love Damian Priest. Despite the past couple of weeks where his promos have been a little bit shaky, to start off, but the longer it goes, he gets pretty warmed up and he finds his groove and everything. But, despite all of that, the fans, they love them Damian Priest. There is a connection that's definitely there. They are gravitating towards him and everything. Unlike Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross tonight, I got to tell you, I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned with Karrion Kross. I loved everything. And look, I'm not even talking about the whole helmet, the whole, 12 attire that he's got going on, the little suspenders. And I'm not even tripping over that. I already told you guys in a nutshell, what was it, last week? I thought it was badass. I thought it was a nice throwback to Demolition and everything. I'm not even tripping over that. What I'm tripping over right now, and I've yet to really see fellow friends in the podcasting world really tackle, what do they think is going on with the disconnect there that's going on between Kross and the fans, because the fans, and I've said this many times over the years, especially to those that are wrestlers, especially those that are just getting into the business, and they want to try to go to a wrestling school. They're trying to hone their craft and everything. Something that I've always said passionately and repeatedly over the years is the worst type of reaction that you can get from a live attendance crowd as a wrestler is no reaction whatsoever. Go out there, get cheers, get boos. Look, not for nothing, but Logan Paul. Yeah, look, a lot of us, including myself, just on a personal level, we don't like that guy. We don't. But even we cannot deny that when that man pops up in a wrestling ring, he gets reactions. And to just see Karrion Kross continue to struggle there and connecting with the crowd, I'm very concerned. I'm very legit concerned, and I really need for things to turn a corner ASAP. I mean ASAP. And it was kind of painful to watch, I got to tell you. Seeing him go in there, take on Humberto Carrillo. First of all, can we just, for Humberto Carrillo, how about that, by the way? It was not that long ago we saw these pictures of Humberto. Remember the pictures of him working out in the gym? Cockstrong, looked like he added about maybe 20 pounds of muscle mass, and you're going, man, this dude looks freaking beast. This man looked like he gonna be hurting some people. Maybe we should give this guy a second look. Maybe we should give this guy a second chance. Remember that? Remember those pictures floating around of Humberto? And then, I try to let you guys down gently that were fans of Carrillo. I said, that's great. He's got the muscles and all that. But when it counts the most, and it's time for him to open his mouth and start spitting out them sweet words, how's that going to go down? And we saw very short-lived. Great looking body, decent in the ring. But when it comes to talking, nah. So to see him basically be fed to Karrion Kross tonight, I don't think anybody should really be surprised by that whatsoever. But to have Karrion Kross in there with Humberto, and the crowd is basically indifferent to both men. Hardly any reactions to both men. And Karrion Kross is supposed to be your new pet project. He is your new flavor of the month. We got to turn this around. Now, some of you may ask me, well, Lee, what do you think should happen there with Karrion Kross? How do you feel WWE there needs to go? How would you maybe kind of book things going on with him there? I think one of the first questions I would be asking WWE there is, okay, guys, what's the short-term goal here in the next 90 days? What do you hope to accomplish with Karrion Kross on the roster? What is the blueprint here that you're seeing for this character? Where would you like this character to ultimately be 6 months from now? That would be my first question. The other question I would have for WWE is, okay, what are your plans right now with certain superstars to pretty much close out 2021? Next big milestone of a pay-per-view for WWE is Survivor Series. So obviously there's some plans that's in play right there for Survivor Series. But I definitely would be asking the question, what are your plans for the remainder of 2021 with Karrion Kross? And to the point, I would say, okay, where are you at 90 days? Where are you at 6 months? Where do you hope to be a year from now with this guy? But right now, I'm instantly going, what's going on with this man in the next 90 days? And whatever you are trying to accomplish, I think that 90-day period is so critical. And when you really take a step back and you think about it, we've pretty much gotten Karrion Kross as part of the main Raw roster now for what? About, it feels like maybe it's been about a month and a half. If you were to tell me, no, it's actually about 2 months, or it's almost creeping up on 3 months, I would really be shocked, first of all, to hear it's been almost 3 months since Karrion Kross been on the Raw brand. I really would be shocked to hear that. And I'll actually research that a little bit later on and let you guys know, how long he's been on the flagship show now. But it's crunch time. We got to already go in second gear already with Kross. It's time. I think one of the things I would definitely do with a guy like Karrion Kross, it's time to have him start mingling with some bigger names. I personally feel it's time for him to, I'm not saying let him go after a world heavyweight champion. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I think they were off to a relatively decent start before Jeff Hardy had his personal problems. I thought they were off to a questionable start, but it was definitely a start that had us all talking, and we were reacting to it on social media. So I'm a bit curious there. Okay, what's up with Jeff Hardy? Anyway, we can kind of maybe resume that, or we're pretty much one and done right there. What's the deal with that? But I would love to see some type of a trend continue there with Karrion Kross, where I think now's the time that we start having him insert himself in certain situations. I really do. I really, really do. We need to start teasing future matchups and all that. Look, for all we know, for all we know, the draft right around the corner, maybe something's going to happen with Kross. Now, you want to pick my brain and ask me if I see Kross going over to the blue brand, although that would be badass. I'm not seeing that. But it's coming off to me, just 2 cents from a distance, it's coming off to me that WWE, they kind of aren't really sure what they've got on their hands here with Karrion Kross, and it's pretty much plug and play that they're doing with him right now. I don't know if you guys have been picking up that same vibe, but that's literally how it's been coming off. So I'm very concerned, though. The lackluster reactions that he's been getting these past several weeks, we got to do something about that. And, if I had a message to Karrion Kross, I would say, look, you're not doing anything wrong. You're going out there as directed, and, as you're giving your bullet points, you're going out there, you're doing what you're supposed to do. You're going out there, you're hitting the home run, right? So, I mean, you're not the problem. I don't even think it's a presentation as far as what he's wearing to the ring. I don't even think that is an issue in itself whatsoever. Everything he's doing so far is okay. It's just not connecting. So when it's not connecting, you got to switch up, and you got to do it with the quickness. You've got to do it with the quickness, because time is essential, because you only get to make one really big first impression, and the biggest first impression was already made. Very rare will you get another opportunity to try to impress, try to woo and wow folks. Okay, so this experiment that they're doing so far with him, yeah, definitely off to a very rocky start. Let me know what you guys have been making about Kross within recent weeks. So, besides that, squash match there with Humberto. I mean, nobody's really surprised at that whatsoever, right? Nobody's really surprised by that. Doudrop had a match with Eva Marie. Match never began, though, because by the time Doudrop gets in the ring, she just jumps Eva Marie from behind, beating the holy crap out of her, and beats her up so bad, the referee decides, yeah, you know what, there's no way that Eva Marie can't even do this match due to injury. Yeah, she just ain't going to be able to do it. And so the match doesn't even happen. Doudrop taking little parting shots there at Eva Marie. So, essentially, Doudrop getting a little bit of revenge, per se, for Eva Marie jumping her last week, if you recall, when Doudrop was being interviewed backstage and all that. So I have a feeling that this cat and mouse game, tag you're it, it's going to continue to happen for a couple of more weeks. Honestly, I think the way things are going right now, I would not be surprised to hear if maybe for a pre-show matchup, if Eva Marie and Doudrop were to go at it at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. I personally feel that's the direction we're going right now. We'll see what happens, but, I mean, matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I am kind of trying to remember here, when is Extreme Rules? And if you bear with me a second, I'll actually answer my own question because I'm looking it up right now. Looks like it's going to be going down on September 26th. So we're essentially about 3.5 weeks away, and we still don't have any matches that's materialized just yet. So yeah, if not on the actual pay-per-view card, most likely, for sure, the pre-show, I'm definitely seeing Eva Marie and Doudrop go at it. But I'm continuing to enjoy the hell out of Doudrop. Seriously, I'm continuing the hell to enjoy her work. And I love the fact that of all the people that's been able to connect, saying very little and everything, and just the way everything has been handled with a particular character, Doudrop, that's been going off very well, from just remaining a silent partner, just in the cut, to seeing what's happening before our eyes. Now, the WWE, they have been doing that right with Doudrop, so I do definitely need to give them a lot of props for that. And at this point, you just can't help but think about the last rodeo round that Eva Marie was involved in WWE, and you just saw all the great potential that was there for her before she took that break and pursued other interests and everything. It really, I gotta tell you, that's one move there with Eva Marie returning to WWE this go round that I'm very surprised at. I really was under the impression, and look, for all we know, maybe it's still in the works, but just the way that it's coming off right now, it really feels as though Eva Marie is honestly just coming in here, and she is essentially the Rajon Rondo. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard about that. For NBA fans, looks like he's going to be going back to the Los Angeles Lakers. He should have never left in the first place. That guy was responsible for their bubble-licious championship. He should have never, right? They should have been able to work some shit out and keep him there. But happy to, but there's a guy right there who, he knows his role, and, he's down with it and everything. Okay, we're not asking you, Rondo, to be the leader. We got the leaders there. What we're asking you to do is come in here with your expertise, with your veteranship, with your championship pedigree, and help take these guys to that level. That's what we're asking you to do, right? And Rajon Rondo knows that, and he's fully embracing it. And it feels like when you look at Eva Marie here, just optics from a distance, it just feels as though she's just coming in and, no, this is not about me going after championships. This is not about me, having matches with the Charlotte Flairs, the Bianca Belair, the Sasha Banks, and the Baileys. This is just pretty much about me, plug and play. Put me where you need me to be to help try to put the spotlight on this next up-and-comer. Utilize me, make me be that gateway for them. That's how it's coming off with Eva Marie, and it's just kind of one of those head-scratching joints for me, at least. I don't know how it is for you guys, and I sincerely mean that, because, man, I can remember the first rodeo in WWE. All she had to do was just come out, stand there in the middle of the ring, and she got white heat. I mean, white fucking heat. It is what it is, but you know what? I'm enjoying this little feud that's going on between her and Dewdrop for what it's worth. I am enjoying it for what it's worth. Let's see. What was next up here? Nia Jax. Oh, Nia Jax had a nice, good, strong night tonight. Man, the big girls, can I just show some love to the big girls? The big girls, they held it down tonight. Between Dewdrop, Nia Jax, and all that. They represented tonight, man. They had some nice, awesome, shining moments as far as I was concerned. But Nia Jax, she made her presence felt in the match there that went down between Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler. That was actually a pretty good, nice little back and forth matchup right there. Ripley picking up the W. Nia Jax, true to her words, she pretty much said that she would own the hell out of Rhea Ripley. She'd mop the floor with frickin' Nikki Ash. And, of course, she had a match, Nia Jax, that is, had a match later on in the night against Charlotte Flair, pretty much promising she would mop up the floor with her as well. So, to see post-match Nia Jax just dominating. I mean, she just cold whooped that ass of Rhea Ripley and Nikki Ash. So you got that great momentum going in her favor, and she pretty much rides that going into her match against Charlotte Flair, which was actually a very competitive matchup. That actually was a damn good matchup between the two. Charlotte Flair losing. Now, this was a non-title match, but she lost to Nia Jax. So to see what WWE was able to do in just this one episode, where essentially, you kind of got the tease about it off and on the past couple of weeks here, but to really put it on full display tonight, where now we're going back to the roots here of Nia Jax. We are going to go back to the irresistible force. We're going to go back to making her be that female juggernaut, that unstoppable bitch, right? The one you don't want to fuck with. And I love the fact that they pretty much re-cemented her on this episode tonight. I enjoyed that. That was actually pretty good. So now that you've got this, think about this for a second. Now you got this unique position where Nia Jax has, essentially done something that Nikki Ash was not able to do, because Nikki Ash, she's pretty much, little bit of weaving and bobbing and behind the bushes like spaghetti and just, right, doing all kinds of little shenanigans like that to get her wins and all that. But I mean, just a definitive no, I'm going to beat that ass. Not taking anything away from Rhea Ripley, because she's definitely, in her own right, in the way that she's been booked and everything. No, she's gotten, when it counted the most, very, very good, strong, decisive victories and all that. But to see Charlotte Flair here, not been the champion that long, and she's already being whooped cleanly in the middle of the ring here. I love that not only do we have a feud reignited here, a rivalry reignited here, so to speak, between Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax, but we also now have a case where Nia Jax's storyline can make an argument, hey, yo, I'm the one that had pinned the champion cleanly in the middle of the ring here, something that these other girls haven't been able to do just yet. Yo, I should be the number one contender and face Charlotte Flair for that championship at Extreme Rules. So, yeah, if that's the route we're maybe going to go, I'm totally down with that, because just optics from a distance, the way it's really been feeling as of late, the odd pairing there of Nikki Ash and Rhea Ripley, such an odd pairing that is, too. Such an odd pairing, for Rhea Ripley to pretty much tolerate being around Nikki Ash. I can't help but wonder, I'm still pushing that narrative about Nikki Ash eventually flipping the script, going the heel route there. I've underlined it and talked about it at great length many times over the past couple of weeks. I don't want to continue to beat that horse to death, but I just can't help but wonder here, something in the works? And is it possible that maybe it'd be Nikki Ash that will turn on Rhea Ripley here, but just the way it feels from a distance, it kind of feels as though maybe the team of Rhea and Nikki, that's something we're going to be seeing on a regular basis for the immediate future. Those two basically going after the tag titles there. Your guess as good as mine, but that's just how it's coming off so far there. But love the reestablishment that they did with Nia Jax tonight. And of course, looking at the Charlotte Flair angle and all that, Charlotte Flair looking a little bit rattled, definitely looking a little bit shaken up there at the fact that, she's supposed to be queen of the entire world and everything, and she got her ass handed to her there. Viking Raiders defeated Veer and Jinder Mahal. Was what it was. Nice little, velocity match. Nice little 205 match. That's the nicest way I can pretty much dub that one. Also, wow, we just blazed through all of these matches so quick. John Morrison losing to Omos. No Miz. So the follow-up to Miz and Miz betraying Morrison, Miz pretty much disappeared. Supposedly he maybe ran off to Hollywood or wherever. So Morrison decides he wants to challenge the biggest, tallest person that's on the WWE roster, which brought him to Omos. And, yeah, came back to bite him in the ass big time. This was pretty much a squash match. Omos continuing to look good, though. Omos continuing to look impressive, getting better week in, week out. From this match, immediately we go right into Xavier Woods taking on AJ Styles. That actually was another good match that I enjoyed of the night. That actually was pretty good. I'm trying to think who actually... AJ Styles actually picked up the victory in that matchup. Actually was pretty good. It's funny, too, because when I first heard the New Day music, I thought Big E was getting ready to come out. And I'm going, what the hell is Big E doing? I'm like, what, does he want a piece of Omos here? What the hell? And then I see it's Xavier Woods. I'm going, oh, it's Xavier. Shit. But then I go, well, wait a minute. Like, if he's getting ready to face AJ, hold up. This actually is going to be pretty good. And that actually was great chemistry between Xavier and AJ. I thought they put on honestly, for me, I thought they put on and hopefully they don't look at this as a diss, but I thought what they had did tonight made a damn good pre-show matchup. Honestly. It was surprisingly just, wow, And if you were to tell me, not for nothing, these guys have locked up in singles action before, the older I get, the more cobwebs I get in the memory, because this is not as clear-cut as it used to be. But, hey, that's news to me. If you were to tell me, no, they fought each other before. No, I really was taken back tonight by what they did tonight. It was actually pretty good what they had did tonight. Just want to look up some of the other action that had happened here tonight. Just trying to think if there was anything else maybe I could give you guys in regards to this matchup here. Nothing else. No, nothing else really about this matchup I want to say. But surprisingly good. It was actually surprisingly good. But to have this follow up what Nia Jax and Charlotte Flair did, I thought that was, I don't know, kind of questionable to a certain degree, because it kind of felt like for what Charlotte and Nia Jax were able to do, which I thought it was actually a good matchup. When I say a good matchup, look, it wasn't a 5-star match what Nia and Charlotte had did, but it was definitely one of the highlights for Raw. It actually was, believe it or not, and that's not saying much, because truth be told, it wasn't by much that it was one of the highlights for the night and everything. But the tag match there between RK Bro, MVP, Lashley, that actually was a pretty good way to close out Monday Night Raw. Always great seeing MVP in there wrestling and everything. Matter of fact, this was like his first time in a good period of time that we saw him in action there. He ate the pin, though, did MVP. He ate the pin, by Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle connecting with a floating bro to retain the Raw Tag Team titles. Lot of stuff that was going on there. A lot of stuff that was going on there because on the one hand, you've got RK Bro, and then you've got MVP and Lashley. But then the other element that you got going on is actually outside of the ring, where AJ and Omos, they're at commentating. You know, Omos just standing next to AJ, but you know something is coming. You know there's going to be some screws that's going to be put in here. You're just wondering, you know, how is it going to go down and everything. But post-match, Lashley, he went right after Riddle, hit him with a spear. Randy Orton counters right back with an RKO, just out of nowhere on Lashley, lays him out. They did do some stuff there with Omos, so he was a little bit dazed and kind of out of it there. So I like this whole interesting dynamic that you got going on here because we've essentially got Randy Orton, who pretty much got a one-up there on the WWE champion, and you're kind of, so where are we going here? Where are we going with this? Because we got an interesting tease that's going on here, you know. But then on the other hand, we've got AJ and Omos. They've still got beef with the WWE Raw Tag Champions, but now, you know, they've kind of, one thing that was interesting tonight, and I don't know if anybody had really peeped this out, but there was one thing I thought that was very interesting, and I wish they would have teased it, but maybe they're kind of thinking, not right now, we'll do it a little bit later down the road. But I thought it was interesting that all the stuff that went down tonight in that main event match, they made sure that Omos and Lashley did not meet eye to eye. I thought that was a very, very telling tale in itself right there. Could you just imagine how loud of a pop that would have been had Omos been in the ring across from Lashley and the fans just, I honestly, legitimately believe that the fans would have ate that up. They would have bought into that and they would have been chanting yes. Honestly. And that would have been a very, very cool little move right there. But they didn't go there. Hey, look, maybe at a later date, right? Maybe at a later date. So it's kind of interesting what we got going on here, all these crosshairs. And then let's not also forget that Sheamus, you know, he still got a little bit of beef there with Lashley as well. So Lashley has this big old target that's essentially on his back right now. And then, insult to injury, Goldberg, Goldberg still has a hard on for Lashley and what all had happened to his son and everything. Now, we saw over the weekend the digital exclusive piece that came about with Goldberg. And for those that didn't see it, they replayed it on Raw tonight. So Goldberg's got to get some surgery done because he's basically got to clean his knee up or whatever. But he pretty much said, you know, in regards to Lashley, it's not about the championship. Not coming for the championship. No. Coming right for Lashley. I'm coming for his soul. I'm going to devour it. I'm going to destroy him. I'm going to conquer him. Okay, so you're like, okay. My translation to that, okay, see you in Saudi Arabia. Gotcha. See you in Saudi Arabia. Peace. Right? That was pretty much my whole, right? Because he's got, what, 2 matches left, right? He's got 2 matches. You know one of those is going to be in Saudi Arabia because that King Prince, whatever, you know, whatever his name is, whether he's a king or he's a prince, I don't give a fuck. But you get the point that I'm making. Dude over there, he love him some wrestling. He love him the Goldberg. So you can just imagine how that's going right now as far as, all right, we got to do this because we got to please the royal family. You know, this is who they want to see. This is who they want to be entertained by. So you just know that freaking, and by the way, I would have gone over the list with you guys tonight, but there was 30 to 31 dates that were on the list. I would just recommend you go on WWE site and check it out. But WWE, about 2 weeks ago, they laid out all the cities that they're going to be going to for the rest of the year. And they let you know specifically if it's a super show, if it's Raw, if it's SmackDown, or if it's a pay-per-view. So for those of you that might be curious, go to the WWE site and check out the live event tour, see if they're going to be coming to your neck of the woods. But 30 to 31 dates that they've got announced so far. So, yeah. But Raw this week, all said and done. Honestly, the triple threat match tonight was one of the absolute best. It was truly the highlight of Monday Night Raw tonight. I'm talking about that triple threat match for the United States Championship. That was the highlight of the night. Other than that, maybe you can give an honorable mention to Charlotte, Nia, Xavier, AJ. But other than that, the rest of the show wasn't exactly a good show. Sadly, Raw just continues to be a miss when it's all said and done. Or as I said at the panel, Monday Night Raw Quill, or Monday Night Quill, basically. Or NyQuil, take your pick. But, and don't even get me started on the flipper segments. Can we please be fucking done with the flipper segments already? I'm just tired of seeing Reggie just flippity flip, tired of the shit. Just tired. I want to be done with it already. It's not even comedic. It's not even funny. Look, we got R-Truth that pretty much took those shots there that he took at CM Punk, talking about the whole entitlement and all that. We kind of talked about that before. And again, just to reiterate, somebody that is essentially, and I like the fact that in a recent interview, CM Punk did comment about, the reports that he's been difficult to work with. And, it's actually, you should go out of your way and you should check out some of the transcript highlights of that interview, because, he manned up and he said, look, no, I was never, I never considered myself to be difficult to work with, bringing up my case, bringing up my points when I feel I have a very, valid argument, a very valid point. Yeah, difficult to work with as far as laying out a match, who needs to go over and all that. Like, no, but, laying into somebody because, some stuff had went down in the match that shouldn't have went down, and, giving them constructive feedback or laying it in thick to them. I'm paraphrasing here, but, pretty much in a nutshell, it was like he really had, this is what's up. So, on the one hand, you look at some of the stuff that R-Truth had said, not calling R-Truth a liar or anything, but anybody, especially when you don't actually take the time out to really get to know somebody, from a distance, and especially when somebody or a group of people don't like a particular person, that's how rumors get started. Inaccurate rumors, just bullshit fucking rumors, and it just grows from there and everything. I gotta say, it really took me back to see R-Truth make the comments that he made, because R-Truth always just comes off as one of those individuals. I'm not about the drama. I ain't got time for all of that silliness that's going on. I'm just about making my money, taking care of myself and my family. Yeah, I'm down with entertaining the fans too, but hey, I'm just trying to get paid and take care of my family. That's how he has always came off to me, and double down on that point when you check out his special on the WWE Network, or now on Peacock. So, that for me was just kind of, but I couldn't help but look at the flipper segment tonight and just see R-Truth, wow, I remember there was a period in time there where you were so damn close to the WWE Championship. If ever a point in your career where you were so white hot and the fans were on your side, if ever a moment where you could have became a WWE champion, and then to basically see what's been happening with him since, yeah, there's been some funny stuff, for sure. Some hilarious, funny moments. But as of late, it honestly hasn't been funny. It hasn't. The stuff that they did tonight, for example, that was not, I didn't even chuckle. And I love cornball, I love that shit. Lord knows. Wifey tells me cornball jokes all the time. And for every 10 she gives me, out of those 10, there's at least 4 I chuckle at. Okay? There's at least 4 I chuckle at. And then there's times where she will just be on a roll and I will just be in tears with laughter. I haven't been getting the tears and laughter or a chuckle from R-Truth in his segments for a very long time. The last time I truly had enjoyed R-Truth and his segments involving the 24/7 championship, honestly, people, it involved Drake Maverick. The stuff with Akira Tozawa, I didn't find that funny at all whatsoever. So, great. Reggie knows how to flip. Flip this, as far as I'm concerned. Flip that. So, yeah, that was Raw tonight, pretty much in a nutshell. So that great high that you were on last week, going into the NWA weekend and all that great high you were on, I mean, you crashed like a 5-hour energy drink when you went into watching the show tonight. If you guys been enjoying yourself so far, you haven't done so already, please make sure that you hit that like button. When you do that, that really, really helps put even more eyeballs on the product, channel recommendations for other as far as discoverability goes and all that. So do that. Appreciate that in advance. Couple of more little tidbits that we can get into. I did see the match card for AEW Dark. And it's kind of weird too, because on the one hand, I did have the results for AEW Dark Elevation tonight. Actually, I do still have it. Here's your August 30th AEW Dark Elevation results. Daniel Garcia defeated Tyler Sullivan. Jora Joel defeated Cal Hero. Cal Hero. Is that the Cal Hero from Pro Wrestling Report? There's only one Cal Hero that I know of. I wonder if that's the Cal. If that's the Cal I'm thinking of, I grew up on him. I remember seeing him on many episodes of the PWR show, and he would always be helping out his dad, David Hero, behind the scenes and all that. But David would always figure out a way to bring him in front of the camera and all that. And he, anytime he was doing his wrestling events, David Hero, because he's booker and promoter as well, represents a ton of wrestlers too. He's the agent for a ton of them. He would always have his son with him at a lot of these events, taking pictures and all that cool stuff. So if that's the Cal Hero I'm thinking of, I definitely now need to go out of my way and check out Elevation and see what the young man has been up to there. If that's who I think it is, that's pretty badass. True story for those of you that are fans of, or maybe were fans of PWR show, because I know they came back briefly and now they're pretty much done again because Damian Nelson had pretty much retired once again here, and it kind of seems like he's done for good this time. I know last time he ended the show because he went to Japan basically or whatever. But true story. I actually a few times I used to co-host the radio version of the show with Meathead and who's the other guy? I think Matthew Thomas was the other guy's name. I used to co-host a couple of episodes with them and everything. Good guys over there. Good bunch of guys over there. Nice good group. Emil Sakura defeated Ashley D'Amboise. Nyla Rose and Diamante defeated Julia Hart and Big Swall. Dante Martin defeated Adam Grace. Thunder Rosa, the lovely Thunder Rosa in action. She defeated Lainey Luck. Wow, that sounds like a Lou Rawls song too. Lainey Luck. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Sorry if that went over y'all's head. Old head right here. I'm on that grown folks old school music. Don't pay me no mind. Brian Cage defeated Anthony Bowens, and Sheeta defeated Heather Reckless. Meanwhile, Sammy Guevara and Fuego del Sol defeated Chaos Project. So good little card there for Dark elevation. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Also, today marks a huge milestone. Couple of milestones. One is wrestling related. The second one is not wrestling related, but it does tie to entertainment. So the first one, which is wrestling related, today, we're now going into the 31st, but hopefully it's still August 30th where you are right now, your respected neck of the woods. But August 30th marked 1 year since Roman Reigns has been the WWE Universal Champion. I mean, just really stop and think about that. 1 year. Remember, he won that title August 30th of last year, taking it off the hands there of Bray Wyatt at the Payback pay-per-view. And it's so funny that we're talking about that, too, because I have this. You can't see it right now, sadly. As nice, as wide as the camera is and everything. But, up above, right beside my AJ Styles taking on Shane McMahon, I've got a Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman signed little plaque/poster. And it was basically the joint where Roman Reigns made his return at SummerSlam and then pretty much went into that Payback pay-per-view, won the championship. So it's got photos of all of those events. And it's signed by both of them and everything. And I just remember what a fun ride it has been watching Roman Reigns do everything that he's been doing for a whole year. Like I said at the Awesome Con panel, which, by the way, if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely, it's on the YouTube channel. I haven't made it available anywhere else. That one, I could have made the audio view available for on-demand and the downloads, but I really felt that, in this case, the visual presentation is what's most important. Be able to see me, facial reactions, interacting with the people that was there in attendance. I really felt all of that was, that way you kind of felt like not only did you have a bird's eye view, but that also you were part of the panel as well. But like I had told the panel, I said, this has been some of Roman Reigns' best work in his entire career. I mean, yeah, some people would make an argument, but the stuff in the Shield, but, just for me, just period. The best work, like for me, what he's been doing all year, just it even surpasses his stuff in the Shield. And as I said to the panel, it's just sad that, it's had to take a pandemic to get this version of Roman Reigns that we knew, we all knew deep down inside that this is the Roman Reigns. We knew this was the guy that was capable of being that, I'm going to hit you in the mouth, I'm not going to fucking apologize. We knew that was the Roman Reigns that was always there. But we kept being force-fed this whole, no, we're going to go the babyface route, and, we're going to make him the new John Cena, we're going to shove him down your throats, and, they really kind of fucked that up there. But this is Reigns' second title reign with this respected championship, but it's also the second longest reign in the belt's history. Brock Lesnar held it for 504 days between 2017 and 2018. As many of you guys, I remember vividly, were complaining about that, and it's kind of like, this ain't Brock's fault. This is ultimately WWE's fault and the way they had structured that whole contract and everything. So, when I look back and I think about the 1 year reign of Roman Reigns, the one thing that jumps out to me in my mind off the break is the great experimentation that has been done with this character, and, really being able to flush it out, which brings me to the next point. When I look at, a year anniversary reign of Roman Reigns, I also look at things from just a creativity standpoint, especially during a period where we're going to take the one thing that you really thrive on the most, WWE, and that is, we're going to take away the live fans from you, right? I mean, that's one thing if you're on the whole social media beat and you're seeing the engagements, you're seeing the posts, but that's only really a snapshot. The real picture is when, okay, I've polished it, I've cleaned it up, okay? It's nice and pretty. Now I'm going to put this in front of the fans and let's see what they think about it. That's the real telling tale in itself. And so to not have that and pretty much just kind of, just going with the flow there as far as the creativity, just, really great experiment. It was a really great experiment for them. And I tell you what, you could almost make an argument that the character would not have gone over as it has if this whole experiment and all that was being done in front of live fans. All those precious moments where he's talking mad trash to his opponents. I mean, we wouldn't have those great sound bites. We wouldn't have any of those, right? So he's really come into his own. And kudos to, because Paul Heyman has most likely been helping out Roman, behind the scenes, probably helping out Usos as well. Just that big old sponge wealth of information and everything. The last time, if I could be candid here, the last time I remember being this invested in a world champion, being this invested in a character, and just with them the entire ride of their championship reign, like for better or worse, just being a fan of it through and through. Honestly, I think I gotta go as far back as CM Punk, yo. I gotta go as far back as CM Punk and just everything that he was doing when he was the WWE champion. I gotta go back to that. Right? I mean, that's the last time that I mean, really invested, truly invested. That'll probably be it. If I were to maybe go through my cobwebs of memory and try to, okay, well, besides that, what was another one? Like go for a previous one. Man, that really jumped out at me. And I was with you through and through. I probably would have to go with... Man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, man. Because one that I'm thinking of doesn't involve a title. It does not involve a title. It was just the win-loss record, and that was Goldberg. To be a fan back in that day and seeing what he was doing, at a time where the Rocky franchise was still white hot, Mike Tyson was still dominating, right? Yeah, that streak of Bill Goldberg's, man, that was thinking about a title ring, putting a title ring in there. You got to let me think about that one. Let's come back to that. I think that's a good way we'll open up Wednesday's show. I got to marinate on that a little bit more and really go through the cobwebs of memory there and really think about it. Now, I did tell you guys there was another anniversary today, non-wrestling related. I don't know how many of you guys are fans of David Letterman, but August 30th marked the 28th anniversary of the David Letterman show, or Late Night with David Letterman, making its premiere on CBS. Wow. I mean, so many awesome moments that I can just recall of David Letterman. I mean, whether we want to go with the Drew Barrymore on top of the desk and just flashing Dave, and you're like, but then Courtney Love tried to follow that up, and you just can't, no, please, here's 50, just no, please put that back down, right? Kind of one of those type of deals. Oh my God, the infamous Cher interview where Cher called David Letterman an asshole, because she had heard so much about him. She had refused to do his show, and got right down to the heart of the matter. She thought that David Letterman was an asshole, and she said this on the damn show too. Obviously they bleeped her out, but Yeah, that was kind of a nice, cool moment right there. Now, obviously, that moment I'm talking about with Cher, that was when, if I remember correctly, that actually was when Letterman was still on NBC, when he was still on NBC. For me, definitely the Barry White top 10 list. There is if you want to have a hearty laugh, and I know you guys are big fans of South Park. I know there's a decent amount of you guys. You want a real hearty laugh after the show. Anytime you need to pick me up, work, school, having a lunch break or whatever, you just want to laugh hysterically. Look up Barry White, David Letterman, top 10 list. You'll fucking thank me later. That shit is fucking golden. And basically, it's top 10 words that sound sexy as hell coming from the mouth of Barry White. And Barry White, just the shit that he says, you're laughing your ass off, but you're also going, yeah, you know what? That actually is sexy. The way he says it, yeah, that's actually sexy, I remember at one point, because I remember seeing the list in real time, and I just remember saying, man, what I would give to hear Barry White, like just sexy words. I would love to just hear Barry White, peanut butter. I would just love to hear him say some shit like that. But yeah, he didn't say peanut butter, but he did say something food related. I'll spoil that for you guys right now. He did say something food related. So, and by the way, we're talking about David Letterman. Nothing long-winded, but a quick nod. If you got Netflix and you are a fan of David Letterman, but you haven't gotten around to maybe checking it out yet, watch David Letterman's Netflix series, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. That is a fantastic, brilliant series. It really is. I know everybody's kind of going Howard Stern and the way he's mature, he's grown up now, and, he can conduct really, really damn good interviews and all that. No doubt about that. But when you look at what David Letterman has been doing on that Netflix show, it's pretty much on that level of where Howard Stern is with his interviews, but even better, I personally feel. And for me, if I were to recommend just to anybody that hasn't watched the series yet, what's one episode where you should start? Start with the Dave Chappelle episode. Just start with the Dave Chappelle episode. And again, you'll thank me later, because when you just go into that episode, number one, the deep respect, appreciation, admiration that Letterman has for Dave Chappelle, just as a human being, but, also just his work and the way he's just been able to make this amazing transition from being a comedian and pretty much being one of the best storytellers, that's out there, while mixing it up with real important shit that's happening in society and all that. You will fuck with that. You'll laugh, but it's very thought-provoking and it's very insightful. And then I would say the next one after that you should check out. Watch the one with Robert Downey Jr. for you Marvel fans out there. Watch the one with Robert Downey Jr. That actually was a pretty good one as well. David was able to ask some questions that normally Robert Downey dodges, but he was able to get him to open up. And one more episode that I thought was good. It was more so of a special, but it was still under My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. If you're a fan of Jerry Seinfeld, check out the joint that Jerry Seinfeld did. It's weird too, because it was supposed to be Seinfeld as the moderator / interviewer, but it just morphs into this fucking conversation. And again, you just feel like you're just walking in a bar, and you feel like you just stumbled upon these guys, and you're not trying to disturb them, so you just basically sit at the end stool with your beer, and you're just kind of listening in. It was kind of like one of those type of conversations. But yeah, check that out. So 2 awesome milestones that had hit this week. So good shit right there. AEW Rampage numbers. We finally got the numbers in for this week. I thought it was kind of interesting, and that brings us to this poll that I had put out, one on Twitter and definitely one on YouTube, and we'll get to those results in a hot minute because I had commented and wanted to get you guys' thoughts on this. But Rampage ratings are in. This past Friday's episode drew in 722,000 viewers on TNT, down 36%. Okay? 36% from the previous episode, and as we all know, that was the CM Punk debut episode. Right? So that's a bit of a drop. That's a bit of a drop. It doesn't hurt too bad, but that is a drop. So 18 to 49 demographic, Rampage did a 0.34 rating with 434,000 viewers. That's respectfully down 37% from the Punk debut episode. So really break this down. The debut episode of Rampage had scored a higher viewership with 740,000 viewers, but a lower number of viewers in the key demo with a .30 rating. Not bad, right? Now, this is the thing. There's so many people that are, I told you that was going to be a steaming hot pile of shit. I told you that show was going to bomb. Told you it was going to wear off now that CM Punk pretty much appeared. You know, you got like, you could almost make an argument that there's a lot of anti-AEW folks with pitchforks and all that. But here's how I want you to look at it. And look, like I said in my AEW Rampage review, I said, look, now that the honeymoon period is over, folks got their ice cream, they got their cake, known as CM Punk. We're pretty much going to go back to business as usual. Remember that? I told you guys, I said, what I'm looking for the most is from that Rampage episode with CM Punk, how much of that was going to carry over into Wednesday's Dynamite, but then how much of that was definitely going to carry over into the next Rampage episode, what's going to be the new norm. And now we're kind of getting an idea here on, you know, what that new norm may be and everything. But home man for a second, 722,000 with a .34 demo. So when you really break that down, they only lost 20,000 from the debut and actually gained in the demo for a tape show. So I don't get that. I don't get that, because when you look at you know, that respected time slot before Rampage, and you see what the numbers were on there, it's not the whole doom and gloom. It's not the, man, that's fucked up. You know, oh, the end. You know, I just honestly feel that, okay, fans got to see what they got to see. And as I said on my Rampage review over at the 411 Mania site going into the weekend, I said, you know, expect the new norm. You know, we're not going to get, wow, amazing, superb, genius, badass, sweet. We're not going to get every single Dynamite that's just going to be, we're not going to get that. You know, and fans need to, you know, they got to shake themselves out of that and just, okay, this is the new norm. Now, I think going forward, I really honestly would not be surprised if Rampage started averaging, I would say, and I'm being kind of gracious here, but just looking at what the network was able to do on those Friday time slots before Rampage, I wouldn't be surprised if for the duration that Rampage is on TNT, if they continue to average somewhere between 750,000 to about, I would say 885,000. 750,000 to 800. Actually, I'm gonna boost that up a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they averaged on the norm 750,000 to 885,000. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're averaging that type of a number, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Okay? But this whole shit about doom and gloom. Now, one thing that was interesting, and I know a lot of you guys probably were not aware of this unless you're following on social media, but a lot of people, it was enough for me to create a poll. And although I only have snapshots right now, you could kind of make an argument it's a telling tale. But let's rewind this back. So on Rampage, and apparently on Dynamite as well, is where the tease initially went down. We were told that coming up on Friday's Rampage, we were going to see Darby Allin, CM Punk comments on their upcoming match. So you're going, okay, well, if there's a reason to watch AEW Rampage this Friday, oh, okay, get some more CM Punk and get to hear a little something from Darby Allin. Okay, great. Now, I don't know how it was for you guys, but as I'm going into Friday, I'm honestly saying to myself, don't expect anything really new. We're probably going to get a bunch of repackaged shit. Maybe there's going to be one or two new little things that's going to be said, but I wouldn't be surprised if we'll see the ultimate, here's what these guys got to say when they do their little go-home show. The show that they got coming up before All Out, that's going to be on TNT. Like, maybe that's going to be the one where we're going to, at a more great length, hear from these guys respectfully on their upcoming match. So I didn't really think too much of it. And keep in mind, besides the review for Rampage for 401 Mania, I'm also providing the live ongoing coverage for Rampage. I'm doing that first before I'm circling back once the show's over and then doing my review. So I see the segment that goes down. It played out exactly how I thought it was going to play. Wow, we got CM Punk, and he's talking for like about maybe 3 seconds of some new shit. You're like, oh, okay. They show Darby Allin, but he doesn't say shit. They just basically, he's riding on a skateboard or whatever. And there were fans on my review piece that were complaining about the fact that, hey, AEW didn't deliver the goods. They said that we were going to get to see new comments, blah, 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 blah. They lied to us. I'm like, but did they really? And I'm looking at the way everything was graphic-wise, how it was advertised, hearing how the commentators are setting it up, and I'm going, really? Like, was a motherfucker really misled here? So I ended up creating this poll. So let's go to Twitter here. And let's look at the poll here, because we got it. And luckily, I haven't really been tweeting that much today. By the way, if you guys want a really good pizza to try out from the frozen food section, I recommend Outsiders Pizza Company. Google Bing that. Outsiders Pizza Company. I thought Gino's Far East Pizza from the frozen food section, I thought that was good. Outsiders, 10 times better. Look that up when you guys get a chance. I had that tonight, and it was actually pretty damn good. Nice, good, buttery crust, not too salty, whatever. And it was just a regular cheese pizza, and I'm usually not a fan of just straight up cheese pizza. I like having some type of toppings on my pizza, and I didn't even know that was a cheese pizza until I opened the box and was getting ready to put it in the oven. I bullshit you not. I just saw, Chicago style pizza. Grabbed it. I thought the shit was pepperoni, and it was just a fucking cheese pizza, and just the way they had the marinara sauce on top, they kind of had it in little circle drops, almost like it was pepperoni, but it wasn't. So try that out. About $10. Check your respective neck of the woods, but it looks like it's about $10. You might be able to get it for a little cheaper than that. You'll thank me later. Now, I'm still looking for the poll here. Right now, it looks like I'm on Empower. I think I'm getting there, though. I'm getting there. Here we go. So I put out a poll. I asked you guys, I said, I'm curious, were some of you misled or disappointed by AEW Rampage advertising Punk and Allin comments only to get, how you say, nothing? Do sound off. Your options: yes, I felt misled. No, it went as I thought. Third option: made no difference to me. Now I want to get the YouTube community poll ready here, because I want to read what YouTube had said as well. Now, if you have not cast your vote, sadly, the YouTube poll, that's closed already. But the correction, I said that wrong. The Twitter poll, that's closed now. But the YouTube poll is still open. So if you want to rather comment or leave a rating, you can do that. Twitter, we got a tie at 25%. 25% felt no, it went as I thought. Other 25, nope, made no difference to me. 50% felt they were misled. Meanwhile, to YouTube we go. YouTube, 20% of you said you did not feel misled. Segment went as you thought it would. Meanwhile, 32% of you said, yes, I felt misled by AEW as they did not deliver. And coming in with 48% of the votes, made no difference to me. So kind of interesting here, you know, when you really kind of take a step back and think about it. Well, on the one hand, on the Twitter poll, you got people that felt misled. However, amongst our YouTube community, it made no difference to them. So kind of interesting right there. And as I had told some of the people that were commenting on my editorial piece, I said, look, I said, if it's as bad as you guys are making it out to be and it picks up enough traction on social media, then you can definitely expect that Tony Khan will probably, you know, address it accordingly. You know, he may not publicly acknowledge it on the shows or in an interview or on a podcast or whatever, but he will probably most likely going forward tweak shit in a way where, okay, let's not go down that path again. But, you know, now we kind of got to be careful here in how we do CM Punk going forward, because, you know, now the honeymoon period is pretty much over. We can't keep putting CM Punk out there just to fucking have him pretty much say the same goddamn thing going into All Out. We can't. I think now is the time where just let CM Punk stay off TV. You can play that shit again with Punk. You know, you can definitely play it. Look, if you want to have CM Punk pop up after Dynamite's off the air and you have him come out, do some type of a dark spot or whatever, just for the fans. But of course, we're all going to get to see it online, right? That's how it usually goes these days. But you get the point that I'm making. This week, you just let it be all about Darby Allin. Give Darby Allin his time in the sun. Let him, because we've yet to really hear from Darby Allin. So my message to AEW would be, you know, we've heard from CM Punk. Now let's really hear at great length from Darby Allin. We've seen him meme mugging from high above in the skyscrapers and shit, high above in the rafters and all that other shit. You know, now let's really hear from him. Yeah, he might not be a MJF or Jericho on the microphone. He might be a man of short words and all that. A man of mystery. That's cool, but we still need to, in his own Darby Allin style, we still need to hear from the man. That's how I would go into this week's Dynamite. Now, once you do that, you go into the very next week. You let CM Punk have his rebuttal. Then you go into that final week there, because All Out is, hey Google, when is AEW All Out?
Sorry, I don't have any information about that.
Google is so stupid sometimes. Okay, so let me type that in real quick. The point I'm making though, if you got 3 weeks until All Out, then that third week, yeah, it looks like it's going down on. Ooh, wait a minute. No, it's going down on September 5th. Shit. It's going, see, the way you should have did it, you know, 1 week and then the next week and then the final week, you just have them both collide. So now, considering all things, and you're All Out is this Sunday, then yeah, so we got to bypass all of that, and now we just got to go right into this week's Dynamite, and we got to have both guys in the ring, and they got to be, you know, they kind of messed this up a little bit, just a little tiny bit. Honestly, what they should have done, They should have had a little bit of comments come in there from Darby Allin during Friday's Rampage, because we essentially heard from one solid week worth of episodes from Punk, but we didn't really hear shit from Darby Allin. So they really should have used Rampage as an opportunity to just get Darby over more and getting his thoughts on the match coming up. And then right down to the point, if you wanted to have him in a match on Rampage, you definitely could have gone that route. You should have gone that route. I mean, remember, Daniel Garcia had beat the crap out of Darby Allin there. I mean, that would have been great instant going into Rampage. So definitely going forward, my message to Tony Khan and them, you got to think a little bit more carefully in how you're laying out shit and all that. So, but it's safe to say going into Dynamite, both men should be locking up. Both men should definitely be locking up. So we'll see what happens with that. But other than that, we were still talking ratings. We still got some more ratings that we can talk about here. SmackDown from this past Friday, they did 2.250 million viewers. That's up from the 2.102 million viewers that they did from the previous week. Homing in on that 18 to 49 demo, they did a 0.59 rating. That's also up from the 0.57 rating from the previous episode. So not bad. SmackDown this past Friday, most watched original program on all of television on that Friday night, especially in the 18 to 49 demo. So they did pretty good. Impact Wrestling, not so good. Impact Wrestling on Access TV, their numbers came in for their Thursday, August 26th episode. They couldn't even crack 100,000. They could not even crack 100,000. They did 98,000 viewers. Last week's episode did about 126,000. This past Thursday's episode of Impact wasn't even in the cable top 150 shows. I gotta tell you, I watched Impact, what was it? If not last week, I watched it maybe the week before, and I just kind of went, okay. Not too shabby. All right. But if you ask me straight, I felt like I really wasn't missing anything. I love what's going on with the knockouts. I love what Deonna Purrazzo's been doing and all that. But, I mean, other than what's going on with the knockouts, I'm pretty much kind of, Christian's got the title. And that's the main reason why I had watched Impact. Because, like, okay, Christian's got the title. Now let's see what's going on here climate-wise. Let's see how things are kind of shaking up, if at all. Let's see the trickle-down effect that's in play, if at all. And there really wasn't, so interesting what was going on there. The new NXT logo, I know everybody is just ranting and raving and complaining and all this other shit about the new NXT logo. I got the image. I saw, look, who hasn't seen it? If you watch Raw by now, you already know how the fucking image looks, right? You look at the image and the first thing that clicks in your head is tie-dye. Or one of my favorite Robert Plant songs, Tie-Dye My Highway. But, it's like, okay, it's a logo, right? The way people are tripping over this new logo, it's comical. It's very comical. It's right up there with... Oh, this is an unfair comparison. But does anybody that's into the comic books, does anybody remember when Superman got a new costume many years ago? Superman got a new costume. There's like some type of, some type of weird solar energy problem. He was taking in too much energy or some shit like that. And as a result of that, he turned into just this pure fucking energy. And there was this suit that was made for him, right? And the nickname for him was Superman Blue. He had this, this special suit. It was a white and blue suit. And he was like this electricity, basically. And this white and blue suit was essentially keeping him maintain. It was it was basically keeping his molecules and all that shit. It was basically keeping it in check. And I just remember first hearing the news, because I mean it was everywhere. CBS, Fox, everybody, NBC, everybody was covering Superman getting a new suit. Oh, the death of Superman. We thought that was something, but no, America's favorite hero, he's getting a new costume. And I remember back then, when it came to the whole costume, people were just on the fence. Majority of the people were going, the costume is shit. You had other people that were like, it's kind of cool. It's a reflection of the times. And, yeah, why not bring Superman, up to date, right? And then somehow we got Superman Blue versus Superman Red, right? We got all this weird shit that was going on. And I remember just all the back and forth that was going on back then in real time. One thing that was without a doubt, whenever that debut issue of Superman Blue was going to drop, and that's how I'm nicknaming it. I can't remember the actual comic number and all that now, but just the actual debut of Superman Blue. I just remember going, all I care about is reading the book. And just from there, okay, is it going to be enough to keep me as a fan and have me following the journey? The hell, the hell with the logo, the hell with that. Put a bag over his face for all I fucking care. What's up with the story? That's what I was most interested in the most, was what's up with the story. Because I found the story to be rather intriguing. But I also had enough common sense to know, this isn't going to last that long. Hopefully I didn't lose any of you guys. So when I look at this NXT logo, you kind of see where I'm going with that? I just go, okay. Tie-dye my highway logo. Okay, cool. Besides that, all I care about is what's up with the overall presentation. What's up with the production quality? What's up with, stage lighting? What is up with the roster? Who am I going to be seeing that's going to be part of this next chapter in the lifespan of NXT? That's all I care about the most. I don't give a damn about this logo. And everybody that just continues to, rest in peace, NXT, NXT is dead, and all this other shit, I bet you they're going to be the same people that may ultimately like the changes that's being implemented with, look, we all don't like changes. We don't. For some of us, we get excited at the idea of moving to a new home, moving to a new state, moving to a new city, moving to a new country, but then there's that concern, there's that anxiety that comes in the whole process. And you can't get too caught up on all of those things because it is what it is. It's going to go down how it's going to go down. Most importantly, you have no say or control over things that honestly you were never in control of in the first place. So the chips are just going to fall as it may, and you just got to go with the flow. I remember when Vince McMahon did the infamous good guys versus bad guys. And a lot of people, they kind of felt that, okay, well, yeah, can Vince McMahon really, is he really going to be able to adapt with the times? Does he really understand where the culture is here? Does he really understand what's going on with pop culture? Is he really going to be able to adapt to the wrestling fans and keep up with them and really as far as a new way of storytelling and giving them stars, giving the wrestling fans stars that they can actually be really proud of and everything? Are they actually going to deliver on those goods, or is it going to be a bust? It's very questionable at the time, but, look, by all intents and purposes, you kind of understand a little bit about what's in store here for NXT. And look, if WWE is essentially saying we don't want no more guys from the independents, first of all, I think that's a load of bullshit. I don't believe that. I think if anything, let's really make there be a cap limit on the number of folks from the indies that we bring in here. I believe there's a cap, okay? Whether that magic number is 5 a year or whatever that magic number is, okay? But to basically go to that point where, no, we want to basically take people that's got some type of a athletic background, but we really want to be able to mold them. You know, we really want to be able to break them into the WWE system and all that. Okay, I hear shit like that, and all I can really think about is the old WWE system that they used to do. All I can think about is the old, OVW days and all that. Okay, so you if you're trying to go back to those days, okay, cool. I mean, when you're in a position where you're hiring, I mean, just really stop and think about it. This is where you really have to use common sense here. As cool as it would be to get some of your favorite talents from the independent circuit and everything, or the free agency market, as I like to dub it, as cool and badass as that would be, those are some old habits that you would essentially be trying to break that could be pretty challenging, because not everybody is going to be able to adapt. Not everybody is going to be able to, okay, I got to deprogram myself, and I really got to get into this programming that they're trying to put on me and get with that style, versus, well, this is what I've learned the entire time. Why do I have to go when this is pretty much what all has gotten me to the dance? What the hell? So, you want to eliminate all of that kind of red tape. I can understand the mindset of, no, we want to have people that we can honestly just mold. They really don't know jack shit about wrestling. Maybe they got some type of an athletic background, though, and we can pretty much work with that. Yeah, you definitely want to also put yourself in a position where you're not working with people with egos. That's the other thing. Just imagine trying to, train somebody that used to be part of an NFL team, making all this good money and, nice, good, promising career and all that shit. Whatever happens, leg injury or whatever, but they got the body, right? They think they got the personality. They think that they can fucking go into the wrestling business and they can make buku's fucking money just off of what they did from another industry. And yeah, maybe for some that was the blueprint. Maybe up to a certain point it got them the results. But no, if WWE is trying to change things in a way where, let's just do, it's kind of one of those, not only who are we to judge, but it's also, okay, you know what, this is way too early for us to be going with the whole rest in peace NXT, these guys don't know what the fuck they're doing. Let's actually see how the beginnings of the end result is going to look. Let's see how it's going to look, and then pretty much go from there. For all we know, we actually may end up liking what they got in store for us. You dig? So we definitely need to pump the brakes, give it a little bit more time, see what's going on. But I think it's rather funny. Just remember that Superman analogy I used, just in thinking about the whole NXT logo. Just remember that. Some afterthoughts on the Ric Flair NWA 73rd anniversary appearance. Had time to think about it. Slept on it pretty good. Not that I spent all night sleeping on it or just, but I did go to bed just waking up, feeling refreshed. Okay, let's really go back in. And I still feel the way I felt from the 73rd anniversary post show. I still feel the way I do about the Ric Flair joint. I mean, it would be no different. It would be no different than one of my favorite scenes. This isn't long-winded, and we'll pretty much wrap up the show on this note. If you ever saw Eddie Murphy and Halle Berry in Boomerang, one of my all-time favorite movies, all-time favorites, especially from the Eddie Murphy catalog, one of my all-time favorites. There's a really powerful scene in there where, for most of the movie, Halle Berry is, she has interest in Eddie Murphy's character, and it takes some time, but eventually he finally recognizes her and all of that. But remember, who he wanted originally was Robin Givens. That's the one that he wanted to conquer. That's the one that he pretty much saw himself just spending the rest of his life with and everything. Remember that? And, when he finally got played at his own game, because remember, he ain't a player. He just smashed a lot. Remember, that was his game in Boomerang. And when he finally got beat at his own game there, tail tucked in between his legs, realizing, okay, she don't care about no relationship. She just, all right, whatever. So he gets with Holly Berry. Holly Berry, really flushes out more of a great personality in him and all this other shit. But remember how Robin Givens pretty much comes right back? Whether it was out of jealousy or she just needed a good lay. Remember how he basically got conned into sleeping with her again? And then when he pretty much had the unfortunate task there of telling Holly Berry, hey, this is what went down. And she just starts cursing him out, hitting on him and all that shit. And there was a powerful little line that he said in there, which was basically, I learned so much, from you. You helped me so much. You made me a better person, being with you and everything. And I owe that to you. Without you, I wouldn't have this opportunity that, had came about with, remember that it kind of went something like that. And she just slapped the shit out of him and all that. And I remember she just said, love should have brought your ass home last night. Right. And that's how you go into the whole Toni Braxton song. So how does that link up to, what I'm talking about in regards to Ric Flair? Simple. Every guy does not go into a new relationship and pretty much put their ex over. Because if it was all, still good, still peaches and cream and all that other shit, you should still be with that ex. You shouldn't be with the new person, right? Okay, granted, something happened with your ex, they died, and and it's kind of one of those, oh yeah, they were a really great person, yeah, we had plans to get married, but it's one thing if it's kind of, but they're not dead, and you break up for whatever respected reason, you go into the new relationship. Oh man, no, oh my God, the blowjob that you gave me last night, Sally, oh my God, it was so fucking good, so fucking good. But it wasn't as good as when Rachel used to give me a blowjob. Oh my God, let me tell you the things that Rachel would do. Man, she had my toes curling and everything. Like, you don't go into, okay, you feel where I'm coming from? So for me, and I see I wasn't the only one. I made my rounds. I checked out what was being said in Reddit forums, social media and all that. I checked out a couple of editorial pieces, reviews, looked all, and the usual places I like to go to. And I see that there was a decent amount of people that were feeling that way. Now, the one thing, let's end it on this note. I need to know what's going on with my man Booker T. Booker T took a massive shit on CM Punk bringing up WWE at an AEW show and how, that just rubbed him the wrong way, that he pretty much was disconnected after Punk started bringing up the whole WWE references there and all that. I need that same consistency. I need that same energy when it comes to Ric Flair and what he laid out. Again, there were some bright spots. We talked about it on the NWA 73rd anniversary post show. There were some bright spots. But, man, the name dropping there. Just going on and on and on there, right? What do you want to say? Old man's age, and, we had fun, but let's be real, okay? Well, we can all be in agreement. Yeah, it really could have used a little bit of tweaking. It really could. So I just wanted to circle on back to that because I know sometimes we're kind of in the heat of the moment when we're talking about some of the stuff that we talk about on the shows because we're giving instant reactions, but I do like to give that benefit of the doubt and usually, okay, 24 hours, let's just marinate on it and then come right back and just, where are we? Still the same position or so still at that same position. Look, the rumors about Ruby Soho, the rumors about Tessa Blanchard, that's all it is right now is rumors. It's great to get people talking, right? That's what it is, like that Reba McEntire song goes, let's give them something to talk about. I love me some Reba McEntire. She is a sweetheart. I love her. Or Bonnie Raitt. I'm sorry, it's Bonnie Raitt I was thinking about, not Reba McEntire. Bonnie Raitt is who I love both of them, actually. Play some good songs from both of those girls on the radio. I'll bob my head to them if you got them playing. But no, I was thinking actually Bonnie Raitt, right? Let's give them something to talk about, Look, whatever happens, happens. We can match some of those little rumors that's going on with the rumor about Braun Strowman supposedly is on his way to Impact Wrestling. It's like, it gets us talking. It gets us wondering and, all that other good shit. Whatever happens, happens. That's the main thing that we all got to be focusing on right now is that we really don't know what's in store for some of these cats. We as fans, we have an idea where we'd like to see some of them land, our personal preference. But as far as that definitive, okay, this is where, we don't know. I think the one thing that we definitely should really home in on, and we'll end the show on this note, is in 2021 and beyond, as I've been saying time and time again repeatedly on the shows, it's a great year. It's a great time to be not just a wrestling fan. It's a great time to be a pro wrestler because, to Ric Flair's point, not everybody is going to be able to make it in WWE. So it's nice that you got alternatives like AEW, NWA, MLW, Ring of Honor, New Japan. It's great that we've got all of these other options that's going on where men and women can hone their craft, whether it's in the ring or, outside of the ring behind the cameras. It's great that we've got so much diversity that's out there, that whoever your favorite star is, that's why I always tell you guys, support your local wrestling feds because you just don't know. Those guys that are at those local wrestling feds around your way, they could be the ones that you may be seeing one day, make their little pit stop to Impact or one of those other wrestling promotions before all the controversial shit had went down. Patrick Clark, right here from the DC metropolitan area, did a lot of his stuff at the Maryland Championship Pro Wrestling Academy there. Everything pretty much got the ball rolling with him up there before everything else had really, came about with the Velveteen Dream and all that shit. So your next edition of the RCWR show, Tuesday night, August 31st. I won't put an exact timetable out there, but we definitely will be doing a live show. As long as you hit that like button, which reminds me one more time, if you haven't done it already, make sure you do. Hit that like button. You do that, you really help us out. You help put more eyeballs on the product, channel recommendations and all that. Feel free to hit the subscribe button too. That way you don't miss out on any content that we put out there for you guys. But Tuesday, new NWA Power Reaction Edition post show. Wednesday, I'll be back with you guys talking NXT, AEW Dynamite Fallout. We'll also go all over the place on that episode as well. And so check that out. Meantime, be kind, rewind. Check out previous episodes you might have missed on demand and on the downloads, wherever you get your podcasts. A lot of great content we've been putting out the past 2 weeks, man. Appreciate all you guys. Get at me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Use the keywords, the RCWR show. And until next go round, wishing all of you all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. I will catch you all next go round. Adios, y'all. Peace.